So this video is for you if you've been studying a lot of like sales theory and you've been really trying to apply these principles. And it's good that you do that because this will give you a solid foundation. The problem is that the theory is very, it is what it is. It is a theory and it's not reality. So, so I want to talk about how you can actually apply your own social intuition rather than just relying on these, like all these principles from the theory, thinking that's the right way to do sales. So first of all, is that the right way to do sales? Well, a little bit, because like I said, they give you a foundation and that's great. They get you started with knowing how sales is mostly done and knowing like kind of like the foundations for how you move people. But, almost everyone, before you got into sales, you had like a lot of experience also just talking with people, talking, with your parents, with your friends, maybe even in video games. You know, you might think, well, that's silly. It's just video games. That's not social skills. Well, okay, yes, fair point. But, if you've played social video games, you still know like how you've still related to people in these games. So you've even developed like relationships with them. So it sounds silly, but it's not, because it's human relationships. So don't get stuck in the theory of sales is done like this or sales is done like that, because at the end of the day, it's human psychology, and the theory that you learn in sales is really just very, very tactical about how to move someone from point A to point B. Now, again, I'm not saying that this isn't true, but the message is human psychology and human people skills in general are much broader than was taught in sales, right? So it's your entire life experience actually that you can apply to that. And if your life experience, if something you believe and how you relate to people, or something you believe in maybe how you just socialize with people, if it conflicts with one of the principles that you've learned in sales, then you need to ask yourself, you really need to study these things, because that's how you get skill transference, right? And that's actually something dear to me, because I think the broader your experience, the more really sharp you get. So, for example, I had a lot of experience, as you can see in my other videos. I had a lot of experience approaching, practicing public speaking, practicing general people skills before I got into sales. And when I got into sales, it's like, I sensed a bit of a connection, but I sensed also like a lot of like new things coming from these sales theories that actually conflicted with what I learned. For example, people told me that it's okay to be silent in sales when you're asking for the price, but when you're asking when you're doing cold approach with girls and you're asking for a girl's number, it's not okay to be silent. At least, again, that's a theory. So I was wondering, like, because there's a little bit of a similarity there, you really have to learn to understand these differences and get these insights, because that's how your people skills are going to get much broader. And by understanding the connections, you're not going to stay stuck on that surface level of sales theory. It's going to be actual sales knowledge when you apply the other things you've learned from your relationships and your social skills to sales. So that's one example, the silence thing. The other is like asking questions. In sales you ask questions, but like in social situations you don't. Generally, that's not a good thing to do because you want to stay, you want to lead the conversation in both areas, both in sales and in approaches, for example. But so in sales, leading is usually thought of as asking questions, and an approach as leading is usually thought of as speaking and having things to say, and just captivating attention. So you really need to try. I really try to understand the nuances there because I think that's interesting. I think people skills and persuasion, because that's what it is. It's much broader than either of those. I think there's the interconnections and again the transferability of it. And so what you actually learn is that it's okay to speak a little bit in sales as well. You don't always actually need to ask questions, but it can be good to ask questions because it's more, you're getting them to think and you're getting them to try to change the way they think in sales. Whereas in cold approach, you're not really trying to change the way someone thinks. You're just trying to create a good social interaction. So that's because the goal is different. But it's like understanding that again, instead of just taking the theory as it is, it's developing your own intuition for why it's this way, and then going one level deeper and relating it to the other things. I think that's how you get to knowledge, right? Because theories are just theories, and it's the experience of actually doing the things, and then I think it's also reflecting about the experiences you've had doing these things that get you the knowledge and get you the insight. So I think that's the point. But yeah, I think that's a general thing that is kind of that way with theories in general. Because theories don't give us knowledge, right? Theories are just potentially hopefully what other people have learned and found. But because other people have learned and found it, they can't transfer that intuition to us. They can just show us the results of what they've learned. And then it's up to us to discover our own intuition of that. And you get that by implementing that and trying the theory, but also by connecting it to your own experience and like even other things that you can relate it to, other skills perhaps, or other fields of knowledge that you have sometimes as well. Now, I'm not saying that you need to get a psychology degree if you want to become the best salesperson. That's not what I'm saying. But I am saying the knowledge that you already have, whether that's psychology, whether that's especially your actual field experience, connected to that. Because that way you're going to get a much broader and real picture of actually social intuition, right? And you're going to get that anyway by doing the sales practice itself. But I think connecting it again to your existing skills and intuition will give you more insight as well. And I think it's on the one hand, it's fun because I feel like I'm wiser that way. But I also generally feel like, it gives me more skill and it gives me my own opinions and insights as opposed to everyone that just takes the theory for granted. So yeah, that is the point of the video. Connect your sales theories to actual field experience, so you get sales knowledge, and then again connect that to your intuition and experience with other relationships you have, with other social skills, your friends, your family that you have, even people that you know in video games. Connected to that, or at least, at the very least, see that there is a connection, because at the end of the day, it's all about relating to people and moving people. So again, that is the point. That's why it's sales. I hope you enjoyed the video. Check out the next video if you want. See you guys later. Bye bye.